And it's time for Lefties Losing It, and the broken, soulless ghouls of the left have really disgraced themselves in recent days after the murder of a great American, Charlie Kirk. No matter how low our opinion, our expectations of these miserable miscreants of the left, they still manage to surprise us with the depth of their depravity.
The sympathy for Charlie Kirk is fucking weird.
You want to know why I'm so stoked? Go ahead and Google Charlie Kirk.
They got him in the net! Rest in peace, bozo!
I do not feel bad for him in the slightest.
Put down like a dog in Utah, and I could not be happier.
Charlie would have wanted it this way.
He's been one of the most divisive younger figures who is constantly pushing hate speech.
They clapped him.
I think it's worth to have a cost.
C'est qui va plus donner de conférence? Qui? Charlie Kirk.
The rhetoric of Charlie Kirk, the way that he condoned violence exactly like this, and how it came back to hurt him. Everything that we're seeing with the Trump regime, it stems from Charlie Kirk.
We don't know if this was a supporter shooting their gun off in celebration.
Now, here are two witches. The first is planning to celebrate the next assassination. These people are demonic.
If you were gonna get the job done, there were two better candidates. And furthermore, when that happens, and it will, it will, not only will we be insensitive, that'll be the least of your worries. But it's gonna be the biggest celebration, the biggest, most beautiful celebration.
Hideous, just hideous antics. And here is one hard left troll, a vicious and callous lefty straight from Central Casting. Sadly for us, this one's Australian.
Pretending that you don't enjoy a terrible person's death is not dignified, it's cowardly. And this is exactly how we got here, because this is what Trump is an absolute master at. He is a master at saying the worst, most uncomfortable things, and people on the left just sitting there going, oh, I'm too scared to say what I really think. You just go along with it. You say nothing because it's not uncomfortable enough for you. The only people I have any empathy for in the Charlie Kirk situation are his victims. That is it.
Now, instead of reflecting on the utter evil of what she said there, what she had chosen to share on the World Wide Web, well, instead of reflecting on that, she decided to double down on the ugliness, on the bile, on the depraved lunacy.
All of the drama, I want to reiterate that it is not wrong or unethical or unkind to laugh at the misfortunes of terrible people. That Charlie Kirk incited violence. That's what he did. And then that came back to haunt him. That was his decision. So it's got nothing to do with the people who are laughing and joking about him becoming a human water fountain.
Just foul, vicious, deranged hate. What else can you say about that? Let's have a brief antidote to that ugliness. Let's hear from Jeffree Star, the original, the OG influencer. He had a message for those celebrating Charlie Kirk's murder.
Because I'm standing up for someone that passed away, I'm now being called names in the chat. This is what's wrong with a lot of you people. You will never get far in life. You are sick in the head. Someone just said they're unsubscribing from me. Thank God, please. Because if you believe in they and thems, you're part of the problem. If you're so stupid enough to go against science, please unfollow me. You can be whoever you want to be, but there's science and there's facts. You can pretend in your head you're a cat. You can pretend in your head that you're this and you're that. Good for you. You're still only A or B. And the truth hurts a lot of you, I see.
And huge props to Jeffree Star for that. He posted plenty more on the issue. His following is enormous. He has over 13 million followers on Instagram alone and many more on TikTok. And Many of them are of the left. He pays a big price every time he speaks up, and that takes courage. And it's all about courage and conviction. If you want to know why Charlie's work was so important in giving confidence to students to speak freely, to conservatives to boldly state their position in the face of enormous intimidation on university campuses, let's have a look at this clip. This intimidation is not just from radicalised students, it's also from academia. Listen to what happened to this young man.
What happened? I was walking to Valhalla to get my food exchanged, and PhD student Patrick Mahoney, as well as his accomplice Gerald Hobb, did not like the hat I was wearing. And when my head was down, I made zero eye contact with him. He saw my hat, he ripped the hat off my head, crumbled it. I had to go confront him and say, "What are you doing, dude?" What happened next? He charged at me. Patrick grabbed my chest, slammed it on the road pavement. Then he grabbed my head and also slammed it on the road pavement as hell.
And this was a professor, right?
Yeah.
If a conservative professor would have hunted down a Kamala Harris wearing student, it would have been a hate crime and the #1 news story in the country. Now we could barely get attention for a young man who was punched by a professor here at Washington State University. They're the ones dividing the country. We're the ones trying to heal.
They're the ones dividing the country. Charlie was trying to bring it together through respectful debate. But how do you debate people like this?
I have breaking news. We think that Charlie Kirk just got shot in the neck. Hey, ooh, ah, ooh.
Live by the sword, die by the sword.
There are some people on this app that are sitting there saying, oh, you shouldn't wish death upon any person, no matter what side they're on. That. Charlie Kirk was a Nazi. He was a Nazi. And you know what kind of Nazi is the best Nazi? A dead one.
Gather around, let's all join hands and bow our heads in thoughts and prayers for Charlie Kirk. Thoughts and prayers for Charlie Kirk. Thoughts and prayers, thoughts and prayers.
I'm not sad. It's about time karma took out that trash.
Charlie Kirk was a big advocate for the Second Amendment. It worked out well for him.
The best part of this whole goddamn thing is that he is not martyr material, so his death will mean nothing. It will activate no one.
It will mean nothing. Charlie's death will mean nothing. It will impact no one. Really?
It will activate no one.
The bile-filled left cannot comprehend the outpouring of goodwill for Charlie from ordinary people around the world, from world leaders, from artists like Coldplay and Morgan Wallen. And the tributes for Charlie have poured in from sporting leagues as well, formerly painfully woke sporting leagues like the NFL and Major League Baseball. This is the Dallas Cowboys paying tribute to Charlie Kirk and tributes to at college football games. Here is LSU honouring Charlie on the weekend in front of more than 102,000 fans.
That you join us in a moment of reflection following the murders of Charlie Kirk in Orem, Utah, Arena Zarutska in Charlotte, North Carolina, and the High School shooting in Colorado. LSU condemns all violence in our community.
And this next tribute shows you how much the culture has shifted. This wouldn't have happened 10 years ago. It wouldn't have happened a year ago. The New York Yankees, in the bluest of blue cities in a blue state, pay tribute to the Happy Warrior, the man who changed so many hearts and minds. And earlier today, the New York Jets paid this tribute to Charlie Kirk's legacy before their game against the Buffalo Bills. Again, this is New Jersey, folks, not Texas. This is a blue state. Watch this.
Charlie Kirk was the bright light in this world.
And the tribute from the Jets did not end there. As the crowd chanted USA, a video of Charlie and a message from his widow Erica played at the stadium. Joining me now is Newsweek's Senior Editor-at-Large and Article 3 Project Senior Counsel Josh Hammer. Josh, that's something special. That shows the impact Charlie Kirk had. They thought they'd kill his influence by taking his life, but they failed.
Rita, let me just first say, this has been really hard. This has been a really, really hard week or so. Charlie and I were pretty close. I've known him for a number of years, but we really became close over the past year and a half, 2 years. We were in virtually daily contact, actually. I spoke with him less than 24 hours before he was assassinated, actually. I was helping to prep him for this very campus tour, especially when it came to the inevitable bombardment of anti-Israel questions there. And this is an irreplaceable void. This is a gargantuan void. That the American right, I mean, we have lost not merely a foot soldier, we have lost not merely a colonel or a lieutenant, we have lost a 5-star general. We have lost one of the absolute titans of our broader battle to save America and by extension save Western civilization. We have likely lost a future president of the United States. That is likely the path that my fallen friend Charlie Kirk was very much on. But I guess what I didn't necessarily appreciate, kind of taking it back to the sports teams, I didn't necessarily fully appreciate the extent of Charlie's penetration of the broader culture. I know him as someone who I would frequently dialogue with about the issues. I know him as someone who, you know, I would go to Turning Point USA events. I know him as someone who I would go on his show. And we were, you know, but I didn't necessarily appreciate that you would have country music megastars like Morgan Wallen and Jason Aldean give out tributes mid-concert to the grieving widow of Charlie, Erica Kirk. I didn't necessarily appreciate that all but 4, I believe, of the NFL teams had a moment of silence to Charlie, which is extraordinary stuff. I mean, you're totally right. When you say that the NFL was about as woke as it gets, they literally had end racism in the end zone. I think they probably still do in most games. They still have end racism in the end zones as a tribute to 2020, the Black Lives Matter, Antifa stuff. But nonetheless, Charlie was such a larger than life figure, even at the tender age of 31 years old, that they felt compelled to honor him. So, you know, I am personally not fully past the mourning and grieving period, Rita. Again, it's been very difficult for a lot of us. I was speaking at a conference out in Las Vegas this past Friday, and all of us out there were kind of, you know, memorializing Charlie in our speeches there. It's really hitting the American conservative community really, really hard. But I didn't fully appreciate just how much he penetrated, not just American conservatives, really kind of the broader American and frankly, broader global culture.
Josh, you and Charlie were close. How difficult has it been to see the unhinged ugliness of the left, the celebration of your friend's death, the rationalizations and the lies?
You know, Rita, it's the most visceral reminder of evil in our midst, evil in this realm, at least since October 7th. This has been the personally saddest that I have been since October 7th. And it's also just the most visceral reminder that there is such profound, unmitigated evil. And, you know, some of the specific details are, I mean, I don't even have words for this. I mean, demonic, satanic, I mean, out of the pits of hell. I mean, use whatever verbiage you want to do. You know, at the University of Louisville in Kentucky, there was some caricature on a bulletin board saying debate this, and it was, I guess, a caricatured version of Charlie getting a bullet into the neck there. There was some other story that I saw of a 3rd or a 4th grade elementary school teacher showing the video of him getting shot to the students there. I mean, you know, this is someone who should not merely be fired from being an elementary school teacher. That person should be publicly flogged, like literally flogged with lashes in the town square and probably sent to a mental asylum there. But Rita, this is probably the most tragic part of all, is that in a way, this assassination was somewhat predictable. It really is shockingly similar to what happened to Donald Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania. Very similar situation there. But left-wing political violence has been a menace in this country for years and years and years, going at least as far back as the 2012 Floyd Lee Corkinson attempted shooting of the Family Research Council in Washington, D.C., the James Hodgkinson shooting of the congressional baseball team in suburban Virginia in 2017, and on and on and on we go. This is just the highest profile example there. But the percentage of Democrats who say, Rita, that they could see themselves justifying the assassination of Donald Trump or the political opponents, in a recent poll I saw, the ones who said that they could foresee this world of justifying it was over 50%. I mean, I'm sorry, not to put too fine a point on it. This is how republics die. Like, this is literally how a self-governing people loses the ability to govern itself. When we cease to have our debates with the pen and the keyboard at the ballot box there, and when we start having our debates through the sword and bullets and rifles there, that's it. That's game over there. The stakes are really, really, really high. And I don't think the left realizes what they're doing there, but we have to fight back with all we've got there, because we're not going to let them destroy this country and destroy Western civilization by extension.
Well, the left not only lied about Charlie, but they've lied about the suspect, the man arrested for his murder. They tried to paint this suspect as MAGA. They created a fake image of him in a Trump shirt. But Josh, this suspect is precisely what you'd expect, a hate-filled, radical, far-left agitator who hated conservatives. What more can you tell me about this suspect and the man who identifies as a woman and is reportedly transitioning, who lived with the suspect, was, according to authorities, in a relationship with him and is now helping authorities?
Yeah, it looked an awful lot to me like Charlie Kirk was murdered by transgender activists. I mean, and if you actually look at the moment that the assassin's bullet fled, it was likely deliberately timed. Charlie was in the middle of answering a question from an audience member there at the rally about transgender-inspired mass shootings. That was literally the last question that Charlie Kirk heard in his life. That's when the assassin sent this bullet there. Now, this individual, whose name I would say, this is my personal policy, he grew up in a conservative Mormon family in rural Utah. I think his parents are still registered Republicans to this day. They went hunting. That's perhaps how he learned how to use a rifle with a scope there. And this person was clearly profoundly radicalized by the college campus, profoundly radicalized by going down the pits of hell on websites and exchanges like Reddit. And, there's something psychologically to be said for this. I can't help but wonder that if some of these folks who come from good kind of God-fearing conservative backgrounds and then kind of fall down the pits of hell on university campuses there, I kind of wonder if they have something of a chip on their shoulder where they feel like they kind of have to maybe kind of do something radical to atone for their conservative family, the way they're raised there. So I'm kind of coming to this conclusion on the spot, but I wonder if the most dangerous would-be assassins and mass shooters in America are actually people radicalized from red states, from conservative families there, and then they go really, really off the deep end there. I'm not sure if that's right, honestly, but it's kind of a thesis that I'm working on right now there. But more to the point, the left is saying this is like a neo-Nazi, he's a Groyper, he's like a Nick Fuentes type there. No, this guy he's literally a transgender furry ex-Mormon. That is who this person is there. And it's just unfathomable that we've had another transgender inspired act of violence there, Rita. Again, like literally just like a week and a half, 2 weeks after the Annunciation Church shooting in Minneapolis, Minnesota. When will it stop? When will it stop there? And I just ask yet again, I've been asking this question for a long time. When will America have a serious conversation about the mental disease that is transgenderism?
Now, I want to ask you about Charlie's widow, Erica. She spoke in the last 48 hours, showed enormous courage, and she was very clear that she was going to use the grief she feels, the anger she feels, to make sure Charlie's mission is fulfilled. Erica, tell me a little bit about her and how you and others around her will help her achieve this.
Well, that speech was extraordinary, wasn't it? That was one of the most extraordinary acts of oration, rhetoric, and frankly, just outright bravery, valor, and bravery. That was an extraordinary speech that Eric Kirk delivered from the Turning Point USA headquarters, Charlie Studio, this past Friday in the United States. I was personally just absolutely blown away. And the speech basically speaks for itself. I mean, you see someone who is extremely well spoken, who is in control of her emotions, even in the most trying of all situations, a horrific situation like this. Someone who is eloquent, someone who is passionate there, and really above all in that particular moment, someone who is really, really, really set on continuing her husband's legacy and continuing his work and making sure that that legacy and that work did not die with the assassin's bullet this past Wednesday in Orem, Utah there. So look, we'll see who actually heads up Turning Point USA. I don't know who that person will be. Maybe it'll be Erica Kirk. Maybe it will be someone else there. I know that she will definitely be involved very closely one way or the other, clearly, in making sure that Charlie's legacy and all his work does not go to waste. And by the way, just some quick numbers, just in the first 4 or 5 days after Charlie's death, Turning Point USA apparently received roughly 32,000 requests from high schools and universities in America to start new chapters, which is way more than they have currently total. So this thing is taken off. So when Erica Kirk said this past Friday that they have no idea what they've started because they have lit a fire under an entire generation or more of American conservatives, we're actually literally already seeing some preliminary data that supports that proposition there. And in these very, very dark moments, Rita, that ultimately is what gives me solace and some hope.
She said it all. She said they don't know what they've unleashed, and I've full confidence she's going to continue that incredible work. Now, Josh, earlier today there were massive lines around the Kennedy Center as DC locals lined up to pay tribute to Charlie. Caroline Levitt, White House press secretary, was among those to speak about Charlie's impact.
Charlie Kirk was a maverick, an independent-minded person who had the courage of his convictions. When so many influential voices in our society are brainwashing young people to abandon our faith, to stay single, not to have children, and to bash our country, Charlie Kirk offered us an alternative path. Charlie embraced our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, and proclaimed the gospel boldly and proudly.
Josh, Charlie's faith was so important to him, and today RFK Jr. spoke about the impact Charlie had on a family member.
Yesterday, my 17-year-old niece left for Europe to go to college. And while she was packing, her mother, Amaryllis, my daughter-in-law, noticed that she had put a Bible in her suitcase. And Amaryllis was curious about it. And she asked her, and Zoe said to her, "I want to live like Charlie Kirk."
That says it all. Charlie's faith was integral to his work. He had plenty of non-believers who supported him, but he really believed that the battle we are facing is of biblical proportions.
Yes, he did. Look, Rita, America is still a disproportionately religious Christian country relative to most Western countries, and especially Republican politics, conservative movement. So because of that, you have a lot of people, whether they are elected Republicans or conservative commentators, talkers, writers, who kind of talk the talk of Christianity. They like to kind of thump a Bible here or there, but they don't really actually believe it. They're just kind of saying it for optics there. Charlie Kirk did not just talk the talk. He 1,000% walked the walk. He was someone who was a sincerely principled, devout Christian there. He believed in the Bible. And by the way, more to the point, I think one of the reasons that Charlie and I became closer over the past couple of years, give or take, is that as I became a more religious, observant Jew, we found so much in common there, because Charlie's Christianity is the Christianity of the American founding. Is the Christianity of George Washington, John Adams, Alexander Hamilton, America's founders, which is to say that is a Christianity that understood that its wellspring is in the Hebrew Bible and the Old Testament. Charlie was a living, breathing example of this. He actually literally kept his version of the Sabbath. He actually turned his phone off over the 24, 25 hours of the Jewish Sabbath from Friday night to Saturday night. He actually was working on a book on the Sabbath. God willing, that book will still come out this December. So he really, really, really lived this in a very visceral way. You can kind of see it as well over the points that he emphasized over the course of his Turning Point USA career. So when Turning Point USA was founded years ago, it was founded initially as kind of a big government sucks, screw socialism kind of platform, kind of rein in the debt, a lot of economic issues there. I'm not saying that he stopped caring about those issues, but as he got older, as he married Erica, as he had children, it's kind of a very similar evolution I've seen in my own life there. You start kind of focusing on some other issues, and his message, again, he didn't ditch the economic stuff, but he was increasingly focused on trying to talk to young men directly and say, here's how you can improve your lives. That girl, ask her on a date. That girl, ask her hand in marriage. Go have children. Go to church. Go read scripture there. I mean, the message really changed. He was really trying to speak to young men, and maybe above all, a very vulnerable demographic in America. He was really kind of the voice of that. And again, we've lost just a completely irreplaceable void. I don't have a single name to point to say that person's going to fill that void there. I don't know where it's going to come from there, but he really did it all, honestly.
Josh Hammer, thank you so much.
Thank you, Rita.